So it was literally her WhatsApp I was going through, and I read through all the messages. I had like an insight. I was in this relationship. I was like, wow. So I called him. Was like, what's this? He came home and then he ran away. He went. I don't know who he called, so I called the pastor. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I can't do this. We're in counseling, trying to fix one problem. There's already another pending issue. He's not even trying, because how is he having another affair when we're trying another one? This is nonsense. This is crap. So anyway, I was like, you know what? I want a separation. Let's do a separation. Now here's the thing about this man. One thing he will tell you, and he will tell anybody who will listen, is how much he loves me. He loves me so much, but he doesn't want to be without me. So when I called for the separation, I was like, where will I go? I have nowhere to go. So now I was forced to be in separation with somebody and still live in the same house with them. So we're on separation, and obviously he continues the affair with this new woman now that I caught him with. He thinks I don't know. So at some point, he's driving her car. He's using their car to collect my children from school. It's just crazy. So I caught it. One day I was like, I didn't know this car. I just know from the kids that Daddy picks us up with a blue car. I was like, blue car? Who has a blue car? So one day, randomly, the way God works, I'm walking to the market. I go to the market. I find a blue car. If it's at the entrance of the market, I was like, ha, it could be this. In my mind, I was like, hey, it could be trying to hide the keys properly in his pocket so I don't see them. So I was like, oh, wait a minute. So I'm actually right. That could be the car. So I was like, whose car are you with? And then he says, no, one of my stepsisters, a whole story that doesn't even make sense. I was like, okay, cool. So as I was walking out, I took a picture of it, sent the number plate to my cousin. I was like, can you find out for me who owns this car? Lo and behold, the name and number of the affair partner. So I came, at this point, I was so done. I didn't even confront him about it. I kept this information for like 2-3 months. I didn't say anything about it. So, mind you, now he's stopped counseling because the pastor is against him and favoring me, according to him anyway. So he stopped counseling, and he stopped me from going to counseling, saying, no, it's too expensive, transport going there and everything is too much for me. So I stopped having physical sessions. I got the pastor, like, okay, I don't have to see you for us to have a session. Let's talk on the phone. So we had sessions every week with my pastor over the phone. So at this point, I've been suffering from anxiety. Of course, I didn't know that. I had anxiety attacks. You know, sometimes I'm in a room and I feel like there's no air, there's no oxygen. I need to pop a window open. Sometimes, you know, my chest hurts. I'm having heart palpitations. So mostly it was the fear. Like, if it's coming, but the fear was still there. So if you come and maybe you haven't closed the window properly, and you'll be like, hey, soon I've window, blah, blah, blah. And it's a whole thing. It snowballs. So anyway, fast forward, and now I'm like, I'm done. So it got to a point where I was so I don't know if it was hurt, I don't know what was going on, but I felt like I was dying. I was having a heart attack. My chest was aching, so I called I was just talking to, at this point, I'm not telling my relatives anything, or my one friend. So my cousin was like, no, you know that thing that you need to do for therapy and stuff like that, because I was lying to her that I was doing a counseling course and stuff like that, because I'm now tired and I'm ashamed of just being at home and listening to somebody who's not even, you know, improving my life. So she said she suggested therapy. I googled therapist, and of course the first one that came up was a doula. So I called and started having therapy with Dr. Dengi, and that really helped me. So I was doing therapy. I started working on myself. I'm doing counseling at church, I'm doing therapy, and I've decided to divorce this man. So I told my pastor, like, I'm divorcing him. At this point, we're still in separation, and he has decided to go and live with his girlfriend because he says, I'm going to work in Kitwe. I was like, okay, cool. Now, if you know me, anybody who knows, I'm a stalker. So I know things. If I feel something is not right, I'm usually right. So I followed her. I checked out her account on TikTok. I'm like, she's on the Copper Belt. So I was like, oh, she is on the Copper Belt. She's in Kitwe, and he's gone to Kitwe 2 and 2 together. He's probably followed her there. Of course, I didn't have concrete proof at this point. So I was like, okay. I called her ex-husband because I stalked her on Facebook. I found that she was married, but he was like, no, we're on separation for 4 years now, and she's divorced, but yes, she's in Kitwe. Cool. So I was like, okay, I'm tired. He's now officially living with her. I only have suspicions. I don't know the truth. He would come home once in a while. He doesn't mean. So I fasted. I was like, I'm waiting for 21 days. Day 5 of fasting. Somebody who I hadn't seen in a long time, who was our neighbor when we used to live in Nepal, calls me. Hi, how are you? Have you been? Where do you live? I said, I'm chilling. No, I'm following somebody owes me money. She comes, we start talking. You know how it is. How's your husband? I saw him. Do you go there? Stuff like that. So I'm like, I know she wants to say something. So I open up giving me information. She calls her friend. No, we know these people. They're a powerful couple. They're always together. They live together. At this point, I even have the address of the house where they live in. I'm like, I know the street. I know the house number. But because I'm done this time, I'm done. I don't care. I'm not following anybody's son. So the healing process was really bad because I had trouble with my emotions, expressing emotions. So crying was very hard for me, not just in front of you, but even alone. For me, it was a sign of weakness. So I was working through that, through therapy and stuff like that. So the pain was literally physical for me because I couldn't release it. So I started opening up to my family, and the support was overwhelming. It was overwhelming, and they just said, if you need us, we're here, whatever you decide. So April this year, I filed for divorce. We went to court. In December, we had a family meeting. We had a family meeting in December, and he was like arrogant. No, I can do whatever I want. She's the problem. She's been doing A, B, C, D. What? So now I became the problem. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm done. Because the family meeting was something we were advised. I was advised anyway at court. They said they'll ask you if you've had a meeting, and if you haven't, they'll take you back because we were married under customary law. So it had to happen. That was in December. So he came back. He was like, I think he was shaken up. He was like, okay, she's serious. So he was staying with me at this point in January. And then February, March, April, I decided to file for divorce. We literally left the same house to go to court in the same car. And we got there, and his family didn't show up. So they said, no, we can't have this procession without the support from the other family. And that was how it was put on hold. I was working at this point. And July, I'm summarizing now because time. So you ask. So yeah, that's that. Thank you, Stella.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience and what you went through. So now, we'll leave the floor open, to those that want to contribute, those that want to ask her questions and everything. Okay, let's start with Madam Jane.
Good evening, everyone. It was nice hearing you sharing your story. The question that I want to ask, the two questions that I want to ask is, firstly, to what extent or what things can you tolerate, in a marriage? What habits can you tolerate? Because I think it's not all the time that you find faults in your partner and then you always want to seek divorce or something like that. So what, in your own opinion, what do you think you would tolerate in a partner or you overlook, and then what do you think you can't tolerate? And then the second question, okay, I'll ask the second question later.
Okay, so coming from experience of an abusive marriage, I would say one thing you shouldn't tolerate, and this thing is something that they'll teach you in these traditional marriage teachings, is he just slapped me, so he was upset. If he hits you once, he will do it again. There are men who don't beat. There are men who have found their women in bed and they have not killed them. but there are those who are prone to abuse. A man who's prone to abuse will not change. If he hits you once, he will do it again. Trust and believe. And also those that are, because abuse, unfortunately, in our society is taken as physical violence. So there's so many forms of abuse. Financial abuse, he's controlling the money. Verbal abuse, he's always putting you down. He's always, has nasty things to say. Trust and believe that those, unless literally God comes in, they don't change. So when we talk about what you can tolerate, I will tell you that when you notice that a man is abusive, and we usually notice these things before we get married, but because we go to these counselings, marriage counselings, and then they brainwash us into like, no, yes, people are not perfect, but there are certain things that should never, ever, ever be overlooked. And the most important is abuse in any form, financial, physical, verbal. When a man is abusive, chances are he will not change. It will become worse. It will escalate from there. So when we talk about habits or things that you can't tolerate in a marriage, I'll say number one, abuse of any kind, of any form. Don't say, no, Mazachinger, no, he's not perfect, he's a human being. No. Chances are from there, because if he gets away with it once, then that's it. He's doing it again and again and again and again. Before you know it, you're miserable. So yeah, that's what I can say.
Okay, thank you. Can I go ahead and ask the second question? Sorry, Dr. Mattia.
No, go ahead.
The second question is, do you think a woman's level of education contributes to what they can tolerate in a marriage? Like maybe if somebody's cheating or somebody's abusive, do you think like if a woman is, like highly educated, do you think they would leave faster than somebody that is not educated? Or in short, do you think the level of education contributes in you making a decision to leave an abusive marriage or a marriage that's not working out or not?
Okay, on that one, when you say level of education, there was a time when I'd have said yes. But also, when you say level of education, are you alluding to the financial capacity of the woman? Because I find that some people, and I've learned this in my line of work now, most women are afraid to leave the marriage because they've nowhere to go. You've got 5 children, you have no job. Where will you go? But then, I've encountered people who, they are literally the breadwinner in the family. The man doesn't do anything. She's carrying all the bills and stuff like that. And she's being abused. And yet, there she is. Of course, these are few. But, so level of education, again, majority we could say level of education and financial capacity could play a role. Because you find that most people who are in abusive marriages now are people who are in, compounds, because it's acceptable to be in an abusive marriage. And most of these people have not gone beyond grade 12. But again, they are educated women who are doing well, who have got degrees, master's degrees, who have got big positions in companies, who are being abused, and they still stay. They've got the capacity to leave. They've got the education, they're exposed. Because abuse is complex. It's a complex thing that you can't understand unless you've been in it. On the outside looking in, you're like, why is she staying? Why can't she just leave? But because this person has been so... They've worked on them from the very beginning. So there are certain things she fears. Like, I can't leave him if I leave him. And he has told her this, and he has programmed her, and he has conditioned her to think, no man will want me. And I'm speaking from experience. I thought I was ugly. Like, if I leave this man, these are things he's told me repeatedly, over and over again. These are things that I've believed. If I leave him, who wants me? If I leave him, where will I go? If I leave him, and for some time, I had the financial capacity to be able to pay for myself to go to school, to be able to, if I left him, I would be okay with my children. But I couldn't leave fear. Who would want me? And he would say things like, no one will ever love you the way I love you. No man, may I love you. You're difficult. You're what? And I believed him. So sometimes it's not necessarily that the level of education plays a role. It might, it might not. And again, financial capacity, like I said, it might not. Situations do vary. I hope I answered okay.
All right, thank you so much, Jane, for those beautiful questions. Definitely, even the answers were on point. So thanks, Taonga, for answering adequately. If there are any other questions, you're most welcome to ask and also to contribute. For me, I have a contribution. I was just trying to look at some of the statistics on divorce currently in our country, and it's quite worrying. So, in 2019, according to the courts and all that, the number of divorces were 20,000. In 2020, it increased to 25,000. 2021, it reduced to 22,000. 2022, it increased to 31,000. And guess what? 2023, it increased even more to 36,000 divorces. And that's just the trend. There's this upward trajectory in the divorce cases. And some of the reasons that are being given in some studies from various universities, they've looked at different statistics to say that when you compare the urban versus the rural, in the urban areas, the levels of divorces are higher. That's 14.8% compared to 12.3% in rural areas. So maybe that could be a reflection of the education level. Maybe just think in those lines. Those are possibilities. But of course, we have some educated people, uneducated people in town too. But mostly, the very educated one would prefer to live in urban areas. Then, under the causes of divorce, some of the main causes, according to some of these studies, are that we include cruelty amongst between spouses, ill treatment, adultery, conjugal right disputes. So these are some of the reasons, and other divorces are not even documented because they're not reported to the courts. So you can see that divorces are on the increase, and I guess, I don't know, in the past, the like probably the mindset of people was a bit more fixed. The women were very much taught to say you need to just be faithful to this man. He can be do anything he wants, but for you just need to be faithful to him. And it's unfortunate that's how some women have been even infected with HIV, because they are just taught to be submissive no matter what. And that's an unfortunate status quo in the past that may have existed. But as women are now becoming more educated, being informed of what is acceptable and unacceptable, they are now ready to stand up for themselves. I could say that for you, Taonga, maybe if it was back then, if you're really traditional, perhaps you would have just said, okay, I'll just stick with this man no matter what. Yeah, but it's good that you have been enlightened to say, okay, there are limitations to what's acceptable for me, because there are certain risks to me, certain risks to my health, and it's not worth it to just say for the sake of the kids I'm going to stick into this marriage. Other people have been injured and even killed because of maybe abusive husbands. So it's a very delicate step. It requires courage, it requires boldness, and I commend you for standing up for yourself, because this is what you call narcissistic abuse, where somebody has narcissistic personality disorder. They just show you a lot of love in the beginning, make you feel like you're a princess just to draw you in, and after that they begin to criticize you, begin to demean you, make you feel that you're nothing, and all their behavior, they want to paint themselves as they're perfect, they're doing nothing wrong, and it's all in your mind. It's called gaslighting. So such behaviors tend to affect the mental health of those women who are involved. And even it could be the other way around. Sometimes it could be the woman who has that disorder and it's the man who is being abused. So we need to be able to pick out those red flags. If somebody seems to be abusive in their language, demeaning, showing us they are loving today, tomorrow they are showing the exact opposite, making us think that maybe we are crazy, we're overthinking things, when in actual sense they're just trying to get away with it and continue this cycle of abuse. So yeah, thank you so much, and those are some statistics and thoughts you can have in mind, and how we should be able to stand up for ourselves as women and as men, especially women, because it's a man's world, as they say. Men seem to have it all and not be accountable to anybody, and the women are just told, okay, be submissive. But to what extent and at what cost? Your mental health, your life. Yeah, so even as we, those who are not married, want to one day be happily married, let us be on the lookout for these behaviors which we might not want to have in our marriages. And if we do have them, let's not be afraid to step out if it's really something that is affecting us to a point where we just can't take it anymore. Yeah. So yeah, that's my thought. Otherwise, we still have some time, about 8 minutes to go. So if there are any more questions, contributions, we can be able to share what we have. Maybe, I don't know, there's a point where my network was cutting a bit. So Taonga, how has your, I don't know if you mentioned this, how have you been able to navigate life after the divorce process? How have you been able to work out how you manage your kids, how you'll be able to fend for yourself? Obviously, you mentioned you finally got a job and you're now more independent, so that's a good thing. How's the relation with your husband now? Because I know some people who have been divorced, but at least they have this co-parenting, style, which they still find acceptable. They're able to work with their partner. How are you finding relating to your partner post-divorce?
So, for me, it has been okay. I would say compared to others, probably a little bit easier. Like I said, first of all, I've got a strong support system, and then I have a job, so I'm able to fend for myself and the children. Although he does pay child support and pays for school fees and any other stuff. And when it comes to co-parenting-ish, it's a bit challenging every now and again because he only does weekends so far. And even then, he'll pick them up. Sometimes he'll bring them back late. As I'm speaking, he's picked them up. They're not yet back. And tomorrow is school. I actually caught him before the meeting started to say, I have a presentation, so I won't be able to, if there's anything that you need to say or whatever. He says, okay, we're on our way. An hour later, almost, they're still not here. So sometimes the challenges, and because he's a difficult person to deal with, so it hasn't been that easy. And also knowing that he's introducing my children to same girlfriend, same affair partner that they have, it's crazy. So my children are actually in counseling with our pastor at church for the time being, just as a way of trying to stay a step ahead of some of these things, because they get along with him, they love him, he's very good with children. So I'm just trying to be a step ahead just in case. So post-divorce, I think one of the things that I find that is working for me is that I've gained a lot of self-confidence, and it shows. I'm very assertive, and I'm not afraid to get what I want, speak my mind. And I think people are drawn to me in that way, and he hates me for that now because I'm able to speak up. If he comes at me in a way that is disrespectful, he knows I won't stand for it, I'll call him out, and he won't talk to me. So personally, I have nothing against him. I've forgiven him, and I speak with him like a normal person. But for him, it's a different thing because when we talk and I'm just okay and I'm talking to him like he's my buddy and stuff like that, he forgets. I don't know if he forgets or he does it on purpose. Now he wants to talk like we're in a relationship, and obviously I'm not about to do that. I put a stop to it, and then he'll get upset that I'm not entertaining him in a manner that he likes. So it'll be a whole thing. So sometimes I don't even communicate directly with him. I will call his sister, his older sister. I would say, this is what's happening. And then she'll talk to him, and then he'll come correct the next time around. So we're still having some issues navigating the whole co-parenting thing. But as for me, personally, so peaceful, to just be able to make your own decisions. I wake up, I could eat today, I don't want to eat. Nobody's bothering me. I have work, my work keeps me busy, and it's quite fulfilling, the work that I do. So that also helps, in as much as it's busy and it's what, but the contentment and fulfillment that I get from it is also a big help. I've got my church, of course. I go to church, and my family, even though I don't really necessarily talk to them, just knowing that they're there and they'll back me up if I need it, has been a great help as well. And of course, I've got Dr. Ndengi, who, God bless you, sir. You have suffered at my hands, but yeah. So that's it.
Awesome, thank you. Stella, over to you.
You really went through a roller coaster. Like, just listening to you, I even feel drained. I feel so drained. I can imagine what you must have gone through, what you were feeling, and everything. But I'm happy you have